Hello, everybody. This is Victor here from Trend Following Trading for Beginners, and here's my weekly update on my sample trading portfolio coming up next. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Another week gone by. Nothing much happens, just like last week. Very much the US index is just continuing to go up. And like I said before, this just going to continue for a bit more yet, I think. But it's likely now what it looks like the rate of increase seems to have gone a bit sideways. I think there's a tug of war going on between people don't agree with what the market is doing. They start expecting the market going to go down a bit to versus somehow the market putting two fingers up on other people's thoughts and continue to go up. I think that's more like Federal Reserve pumping money into the general market and going into the stock market, and that's what is actually happening. So this is a Fed's induced sort of rise in the stock market as far as I'm concerned. Yes, the possibility of the effect of the coronavirus on the US or around the world is lessening. Some countries are coming out of lockdown in Europe, as well as noises in the US. Different states are doing things. The West Coast seems to be doing better than the East Coast, and some part of the countries are having less of death of induced by coronavirus in the US, but is still, I think, personally, I think just too early to call. But there's a tug of war going on in the market, and that seems to come in the rate of the increase, so to speak. So it's going a bit of sideways at the moment. But so nothing much to report on that. But however, on Monday there was a big drop, not because suddenly people don't think things are getting slightly better, but more of I think that Donald Trump's re-election machines coming out. Donald Trump suddenly started a bit more vocal against the Chinese. Has been saying that before during the pandemic. I mean, it's still in the pandemic, but has been blaming the Chinese, saying this is a Chinese virus. China coming back out to be more vocal about, say, that's not right, naming things. And the WHO comes out as well. WHO say, this is a COVID-19 virus. Don't go around and just label it in particular countries or region. So very much like, I understand that argument. Like the Spanish flu is not really, a lot of people think it's not really from Spanish. From Spain, it's more like from Texas in America. And does anybody say it's a US flu? Not really, that kind of stuff. So all these tic-tac-toes going on while things are moving forward, but for some reason seems to have suddenly make a turn. I think it started more or less like last week when one way or another, jokingly or sarcasm or whatever, President Donald Trump said about putting disinfectants into your body or using strong ultraviolet light and start to kill the COVID-19 virus in human bodies. He seems to have put his foot into his mouth and he stopped presenting the daily updates apparently. And then this warmongering speech comes out and say, taking China to accountable for its for the virus and stuff. But it's quite funny that when he actually said that, because I think MSNBC Americas is coming out a couple of video this week, basically saying the timeline of how President Donald Trump has handled the virus issue and kind of stuff. So I'm sure in America anyway, I think around the world people start asking other questions like, is whatever Donald Trump says correct, or is there some other thing they face and see is not true or something, and people starting have a bit more logical, independent thinking, that kind of thing, which is good. So Monday, Donald Trump and Pompeo come out and say, they got massive evidence to say that the virus is from China, and but they offer nothing. Okay, and then of course the market gone down. Just worry about they're supposed to have U.S. and China supposed to have second round trade talk. They worry about because of coronavirus. Even the first trade talk deal maybe succumb to the virus, and both sides basically say, it's act of God, and therefore go out and initiate the get out clause. China's not going to buy from America. America couldn't even supply, so it got out as well. That kind of stuff. So there is worries on that one. But America keep on attacking China, and then there's no evidence showing. It's just like back in January this year when America said one of the Iraqi general is planning something against U.S. military bases in the Middle East, and then send a rocket there and just blow his ass up, so to speak, and later on offer no evidence again. Very much just like Iraq, U.S. and UK went into Iraq, so there's weapon of mass destruction, or they found the Saddam Hussein and a lot of very bad organized weaponry, and there's no mass destruction weapons, nothing at all. And from as far as I'm concerned, politicians are not really trusted. I learned that in those days in China, and the West I always thought hold them high esteem, but like I said, crows, it's always black, no matter where you are, in China, Asia, or in Europe or US. Politicians, they say whatever they want to help them situation-wise. And a lot of days, I still believe there's a lot of good old-fashioned politicians. They say what they mean, and they really are for the people. But the machines, the government machine from both UK, US, and Europe, sometimes just feel, for me anyway, from outsider, from Asia, just feel, all this idea that's pumping out by Hollywood, or basically all this, American just, right and cool and hero. But as you grow up and start to listen to all the rhetoric from America, especially recently, you see that they're very, very one-sided sometimes, and no wonder people in Middle East doesn't really like the American policy sometimes. The foreign policy is really bad. And it seems to have similar kind of thinking, even though there's change of administrations. It's always American first, American stuff. So now it's trying to blame Chinese. And the Chinese government didn't take it all lying down, but there's also a change of tone as well. China has always been very active, very reserved, very holding back, especially during the first round of tariff negotiation talk. U.S., especially through Donald Trump, might rant a bit and say all sort of things, but China is always very fair and keep on very hold back and very measured, and keep on saying, we need to respect each other and negotiate, move forward together, so it's both win situation. And now the deal is signed. Act of God happened, the virus happened. Expected you believe it's from China, from US, or whatever it's from, or it's natural or not. US seems to be blaming China for it and talking about adding possible more tariffs, $1 trillion tariffs. When I listen to it, it's a shock as well as a joke, and I start to laugh afterwards, because like how much stuff that US is importing from China, and how much tariff can they put in? 50%, 100% maybe? And who is actually paying for it? I said in previous podcast, Chinese exporters, manufacturers, they took some of the hits from the previous the tariff, and most of it is borne by the U.S. importers, and they've been the importers trying to not pass it to the U.S. consumers, but some of them the businesses are suffering, but not the consumer side. So there's some inflation over there, as far as I understand from my research. But for U.S. to put a lot more tariffs on to existing tariffs, not touching the consumer bit, is bad for business, for the business community within U.S. But China this time, what I was trying to say is they changed the tone, especially last week or two. They've been coming out and say, ever since America blamed its Chinese virus, and then all this rhetoric about China to pay for the damages, and UK and I think Germany, there's some newspapers say, yeah, China should pay, and so it's Australia saying say China should pay, blah, blah, blah. China basically, I think they start to see the enormity of the problems, the anti-Chinese rhetoric coming out and thinking from different countries around the world. They basically start to push back, a lot more pushback these days, and effectively say, okay, if that's what you guys do, I'm going to play my bit too and push back by simply rejecting what Donald Trump is saying. keep on saying how badly America as well as Europe, not much on Europe, very much on the American side, say they are mishandling the situation. And lately, I think last Wednesday or something, they come out with videos. Now, initially that video was treated only available only on the China news site, and they treated it, and then the video got shared with on YouTube, and it's quite funny using the Lego block. I think some U.S. media picked them up, and effectively, yeah, in Chinese defense, of course from China, the video, and keep on saying, China keep on telling people this is a virus as an issue, and this Lego, basically the Statue of Liberty, keep on saying it's a lie, it's fabrication, there's no flu, it will gone away, disappear in April, and keep on saying China didn't share the information, blah blah blah, and so forth. And I think you can just go and search YouTube. Yeah, but the attitude is quite pushback. But also one thing I'm not sure is actually being advertised on US news channel is that those people apparently have connection with UK and US for the demonstration in Hong Kong last year. Effectively has started to get what you call the laws get onto them, so to speak, and some of them got caught and basically been face court for gathering that they're not allowed to, and also supplying. And one of the Apple News magazine, the owner, Mr. Lai, was apparently threatening another reporter and gone to court for threatening behavior as well. So effectively, also Martin Lee, the guys I talked about before, that who is champion of human rights in Hong Kong, effectively just vote, one man, one vote, that kind of thing. He also got caught as well, basically persecuted as well. I wouldn't say really persecuted, but it's more like the law comes to it and then say they broke some of the rules, and then there's another guy as well. So those are the three. There were three big guys. Effectively, have gone to America recently, and say please help us, that kind of stuff. And of course, the U.S. government play it up, and there's apparently some sort of quiet understanding that these three people, you don't touch them. But the Chinese government, through the Hong Kong government, legislation and law enforcement, basically charged them for gathering, mass demonstration when there's already the common decree saying not allowed to, and also supplying, to all these people gathering, and then at the end become violence. I mean, I'm all for peaceful demonstration. Everybody's have their voice, but it comes to somehow organize demonstration, after which turn out into violence, just like UK. There's a lot of people, go to play football, we got hooliganism like hell, and then people started fighting after after the football. They went to drink in the pub, and then different gang, different supporters on both sides, started come together in some pubs and start fighting. And it's not a UK thing only; it's also in Europe. I'm not sure about America, but those are the type of things that it's been facing in UK, and a similar thing I feel very much in Hong Kong as well. Demonstrate fine. The young people may feel okay, they're not getting the government heed them anymore, but fair enough. Each country have demonstrations, sometimes turn violence, but to actually see the type, you actually see the type of reports from Europe, US, to show how much the gear, the thing that people wear, the color of clothing and stuff that the demonstrators in Hong Kong actually wearing is quite organized. You've seen similar things, let's say the yellow shirt demonstration in France. You see a lot of them with mixture of clothing, some with the yellow jacket and stuff, but mostly most people are, even the cover their face, whatever, similar to following what the Hong Kong demonstrators are doing, are very much self-purchase, that kind of thing. So very much of different varieties and stuff. But in Hong Kong, you see people are, what we call them, they cover the whole face, with standard gears, and some of those gears effectively looks very similar. So it's just not basically make people start to ask questions. What are those, and what do you mean by having all this stuff going on, and it does make people feel very much organized, and it's just not very nice to have that. And of course, the Chinese government now basically said, okay, somehow something internally within the Communist Party basically said, okay, it's time to push back, and you've seen the firstly, quite calmly. I don't think the West have. BBC, I think they have. I'm not sure about in US. They say, some of especially Mr. Lai, with the owner of the Apple newspaper, has got arrested, and then Martin Lee and then another guy got arrested. That's the first phase of pushback, when this quiet understanding that Europe or US say don't touch these three guys or something. They are the symbol of liberalism or one vote, whatever you call them. But China is now prosecuting them and push back through the Hong Kong Chinese government. And now we have the rhetoric coming out a lot more. You've seen probably in US news as well, that China is pushing things back and basically saying, now we disagree what the Trump administration is saying. And now we've got the video coming out from a Chinese news agency, things like that. It's quite funny. A lot of it's quite true. Of course, it's very one-sided as well. I mean, and very much on Chinese favor, and a lot of truth as well. So it just showed that how things are. China is pushed back, but overall, I totally think like this tariffs. It just Donald Trump talks about adding $1 trillion tariff. You think China's just gonna sit there and just take it? I mean, anybody wouldn't. It's very bullying. I know I'm not China Communist Party fan. They have got a lot of issues and corruptions and infightings, and still a Communist Party. They quite locked down, quite restrictive what you can do and stuff, especially news, human rights, and stuff, environments and stuff. But Chinese people have to rise up and go through their giving birth pain, so to speak. They have to give birth to a more democratic society. They have to go through I wouldn't like to say it, but it might happen through some sort of bloodbath, something demonstration hurting Chinese people internally to go through the growing pain, and for Europeans and US people telling other people what to do, in this case China, to do a certain ways. China's just not going to take it anymore. It's sort of showed the last couple of weeks, and for Chinese to just lie down to take the extra tariff. What? You think they just say, okay, yeah, just keep it on, keep quiet? No, they're not going to. And on the far side, keep on saying how China is bad, blah blah blah. So I think from me as an outsider in UK and just watching, I just feel like, let's compare. In UK, we got some very rather violent type of dog and breed of dog called Rottweilers, and some people take it as a status thing because it's very, not very big, but it's very strong. It's quite difficult to handle, and people take it as a way of showing how macho they are. Some of them are very calm. For some of these dogs, the type, but when they provoke, it can be quite bad. And so there's a lot of deaths hurt by this type of dogs in UK. You probably read about it in Europe, around the world as well. But it's very much to me, it's like somebody having that type of Rottweiler dog in the back garden has been barking for months, years or whatever, and then you live next door, very close to it. You normally put a gauge on just to stop, in your garden, stop others coming in, especially next door neighbor have a violent type of dog. You want to protect yourself, your loved one, your family, so you put a gauge on. So for some reason, one day, or whatever reason you left the door on. The dog from next door continue to bark, showing his violent noises, running around in front of the gate, not coming into your property, just running around showing the ugly face and making noises, standing there as if, ready to attack you. And what would you do as an owner? You go close the gate, right? You're not going to leave the gate open, right? That type of dog could be violence if it's provoked certain ways. most of the time should be okay, but they bark, dogs bark, but you have be you worry and you put yourself in more protective, position. So you close the gate, and you're basically okay, fine, just leave next door neighbor, just ignore them when they bark, just don't come to my place. Or you say you come to my part of the garden, I might just kick it and kill it and whack it, just to stop it to coming into my place. And next door, might have a word with you, an argument and stuff. But you do something about it, right? So if you put that on the forest side, China has been known for years by the rest, been painted to be controlling information. They don't like, people talk about Tiananmen Square, Tibet, that kind of stuff. The information that come out the West always painted the Chinese. It's very much like North Korea. You cannot trust the numbers, so to speak. So on this front, China has been saying, okay, it has been shown to the world that, initially some doctor found some strange things happening. Looks like similar to SARS virus back in 2003, put on YouTube and try to warn other people, and those videos leaked and gone on YouTube, right? That doctor got, shut down, so to speak, and had to say sorry and all kind of stuff. And now later on, now it's more like a hero in China. People's view change and say this is a one good doctor who showed the world, in China anyway, but also the world, that there is some funny things going on here, and we should not have stopped him. We should have, internally take his view seriously and investigate. So some of those state officials in Wuhan has already been, pushed to, in one side being investigated. The Chinese government, the central government, stepped on it very quickly, and I personally feel they have, they're not doing a great job initially, but they try their best. Especially they got a new virus, they have no idea what the hell's going on. Conspiracy aside, and they keep on just do what they do. And with the SARS information from last time, they do use it with Western medicine as well, Chinese medicine, which I talked about before, and try to do things. But what is going on? It's like a Rottweiler in your next door neighbor, keep on barking, saying all sorts of things. There's something going on in Asia. But what did European do? Nothing much, did they? In Italy, what did they do? Or Europe, UK, what did they do? US. I mean, Donald Trump is very vocal about things, and it tells you, okay, it is, or okay, not that. And basically say, the Chinese virus, and therefore it's nothing to do with me. And then now, the saga continue with the virus running around, and US keep on saying, okay, we only got 4 cases initially in January. It will just blow off in Asia. It's an Asia thing, and in April or May, sometime when the weather get hot, it just magically disappear. Blah blah blah. And the MSNBC was showing those kind of things on the video, which I talked about on YouTube. Go and check it out yourself. But then you see the type of attitude that the West keep on saying, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. So you're owner of the next door. Okay, going back to the dog scenario. You hear next door dogs barking, and you left your own gate open to the next door, or garden gate between the two of your properties, yours and the next door neighbor. Well, then you take some responsibility for left the gate open, even though after you realize there's a gate open. I mean, Donald Trump did stop the Chinese coming through, from Wuhan, but didn't stop other Europeans within that country to travel to Europe or to travel into US. European didn't say much, do very, very slowly. Or they say, the WHO didn't say this or that, and therefore, I didn't take all this precaution. But America, they went around and, stopped the Chinese people to traveling from Wuhan into America very much early, I think early February or something. So why can't the other country do that? Yeah. So there's a train of thought here, especially for people like myself, quite logically ask, why can America do something about it earlier? They did about shutting down the flight, who can come in from China into America very much early on. So what about, other things that you can do? Like, okay, there's a possibility of virus being transported to around the world, and that's the rest of the world to decide as well, that, through air transportation. And what each country is supposed to do about it. What do they do? What are they doing? To me, it's very much like, watching on the sideline, especially in the UK. Nothing much happened until early March when the COVID-19 outbreak coming through in Italy, and suddenly there's all sort of things that, people running around headless chicken, and just try to do something. So from that point of view, you look at it. Okay, China might be, you know, not telling the world what's actually happening, a bit late and so forth, and try to close down the news early on. But I'm sure, even on BBC News and European news, showing what's also going on the general news front, that most people would, if half a brain, would do something. So actually, to a politician to stand there and say this is very much Asian thing, is ludicrous to me. That's stupid claims. And if you say, okay, you don't trust China, fine, trust your friends then, who South Korea, Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and those in Thailand. The virus has spread to those countries. So what did they do? Especially Singapore, they took it very seriously and said, look, there's something going on. I'm going to stop people coming through. I'm going to try to do some testing and quarantine people, blah, blah, blah. And what amazes me also is South Korea. They've seen the issue in China and act on it very quickly, just like Singapore. But how the hell they come with some tests so quickly? But the way they do is test anybody as much as we can, find out who is affected group, those affected group, quarantine them, and at the same time try to find a vaccine and stuff. I'm sure Asia there are a lot of people, countries also trying to find a vaccine. But these are the two examples, different Asian countries actually doing something, and South Korea especially, working very closely. So it's Japan and stuff with US. So you don't trust the Chinese number. Why can't you just take whatever South Korea is doing and take that as there's something going on? Have crossed border, go into South Korea, and the South Koreans are very actively, try to protect themselves. There's something going on. Let's do something ourselves in America and Europe. So those are the things that people need to, ask why their own country, the politicians and government and health authority didn't do much, and then just now blame China. And even let's say they don't trust the test capability from South Korea, why don't they just ask them first to say, okay, just borrow whatever you got, manufacture what you can, give some to me while I'm trying to do my improved version of the test and try to pick up some vaccine and stuff, so at least you can protect themselves. Now, the tests are not readily available. Just look at us, UK. At this day, we still haven't done enough testing as far as I'm concerned. I'm still in the lockdown. Just like a lot of Europeans and so Americans. And one of the main problems around the world is test capabilities. There's people say those tests, are wrong, whatever the US is doing testing is wrong, or even America or South Korea is wrong, or whatever. But at least there's some sort of test available. Expect it right or wrong first. If there's test cases that are proven to be able to detect the COVID-19 virus, why wouldn't the rest of the world just borrow that first? Talk between countries. This is serious stuff. Virus doesn't care if you're black or white, you're Chinese or Americans, Russians or Brazilian, whatever, man or woman, boys or girls. It just go to come at you. It's a virus. It doesn't care. It's just trying to find a host to infect and to live and spread. That's just organism. That's what they do. So what the hell do we do as human beings? Watching others, doing the job, and in Asia seems to be all being attacked, and then European not doing much until much later on. And the testing, why can't you just test it first? It really does make a question. And then also the U.S. President Donald Trump, the executive order started the war procedure or something, and forces some of the U.S. company to manufacture stuff that's needed for the country. They can use the same thing to say for some of the pharmaceutical company, Europe as well as in America, to duplicate the test that South Korea does and then send it into Europe as well as America. And, okay, they might not be great. Let's assume this is not fantastic, but at least there's some sort of test. Why can't they have that first while they're developing some more better one? I mean, developing tests can take some time. So it could be America don't trust South Korean, and South Korea have a very good, not pharmaceutical, it's more cosmetic kind of thing, and the medical is quite good, and so a lot of people go there to do plastic surgery and stuff, but also the medical side is quite well known. And you look at Singapore, so they very actively do something about it. And I think those are the type of things people need to think of. What type of stuff that their own country should do. And that's just my view. What I think ought to happen. And okay, even though that's another train of thought here, is that if you don't like the Chinese lockdown model, like Singapore didn't really do lockdown much later on, why do you have to follow the Chinese model? Chinese has been very draconian on it, locked down the whole town in a couple of cities as well. And what is actually happening? Oh well. The rest of the world seems to just follow the Chinese model, and the harm that it did to the economy. China just try to stop the virus in single economy. US seems to just follow, also is the rest of the world just follow that, when there's other country didn't do that lockdown. Okay, they have got probably no more deaths and still have the virus spreading around, but they took a different approach. Why can't the Europeans and the UK and American take that different approach and then blame China for it? And so all these little things I think about is quite, from a outsider point of view, look at it, it's like, you really sure what you guys are doing? Just it's like blame game going on. Apparently, there's 3 types of virus around. The UK Cambridge Medical Study, they've done something study, and they say there's one strain going on in Asia, one strain in Europe, and one strain in the US, and they think it's been around a bit earlier than December around the world. So what's going on? Virus don't just jump right away. If it got reported in December in China, and then now some France was saying even got early December, so that means Europe got it earlier. So it's somebody also talk about it in Europe. And on the US, saying that they have something similar, flu-like symptoms like Covid-19 back in November. And some state not talked much about, but it's on YouTube I just read about. Let's say all of them are, taking half of salt, a pinch of salt, half is correct. But there is a train of thought that those viruses may have been around earlier and has been spreading earlier, and now, showing its ugly head mostly in China, and then the rest of the world seems to have it, and that mutate as well. And then hurt each other. So this is a silence killer, and it's hurting lots of people. And it just primarily just point a finger to China. It's just, to me, it's not right. Sorry about the rant, but I just want to analyze this kind of thing, and it's quite difficult as a Chinese to look at it, because I feel the pain of China. Worry about what the rest of the world is going to do to it after everything die down, the payback time, which I talk about a bit later on, and then whatever it says, whatever it do, is never good enough for the West. It's just quite sad. But on the other hand, you put a logical thinking hat on what the hell European and American does, the government-wise. It's also questionable as well. So I think a lot of media in US, both US and Europe and UK, has picked it up and attacked the government. But how much is the government going to do something about it? And we'll just have to wait and see. And then the other funny thing on Friday as well, now the non-farm payroll came out. It shows how much the market is so inefficient, emotional driven. The non-farm payroll came out with loads of people get employed, but less than what is expected, by 2 million or something. And then the previous months kind of last month non-farm payroll something figure got changed, and even more people was out of work then, or something like that. And then the market took it. Oh, it's less than what we expect, so it's not as bad as what we think. Let's have a rally. I said the Fed-induced rally, but plus people's sentiments, and then just move the market to go up 400 odd points or something. So at the end of the day, all these people say market innovation is just going out the window. Especially academics, just look at the outside world, have a look. Students of economics, go have a look at the real world. It's economic theory that everything is division. People are calm when they make the decisions. Rational, that's the word. Not really. Not when the house is burning down and there's fires up their ass, and everybody get worried, and it's very different between theory and actual application in the real world. So that sort of shows it. But the market basically apparently gone up in 400 points, I said on Friday, and just funny. Another thing I found out um, is the U.S. mean stock market and Bitcoin seems to have some sort of correlationship. You look at the charts since March, end of March, early April, U.S. indexes started to recover. So is Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin is back to near the 10,000 mark. I talked about a bit more on my analysis already last couple of weeks, and now I talk a bit more this week as well. But then there's some sort of correlations going on. So it's just my view over time and what is actually happening this week. But like I said before, I'm gonna share. I've done some analysis about what happened after the COVID-19 effect, and I'm gonna share that with you a bit later on with this podcast, basically. So before I start, I have to say this. Okay, whatever I'm gonna say about this analysis is mine. I'm still ongoing doing this analysis. So this is my research journey. It's incomplete as far as I'm concerned, with many moving parts and changes on a daily or weekly basis. So there's no way to form any financial advice. I'm just sharing my trains of thought, and then if people find it useful, fine. But just take a pinch of salt and don't take it to the bank, so to speak. Okay. But the reason I'm doing this analysis basically just to find maybe certain markets that I can concentrate on, and maybe see if I can get the leaders of those markets and trade using trend following. But from a trend following point of view, it's absolutely nothing to do with trend following. This is more like a fundamental analysis. But I just like to find out where I can look and look at the certain market to try to make money out of it using trend following, and that's just the way I do it. So from a pure trend following term way of life, nothing to do with trend following. It's just my view, but applying trend following to those areas, possibly I personally feel they can make some money out of it. So I just try to highlight industries I should look at, and then see if there's buying as well as shorting opportunities. More of a shorting side, I still feel there's a lot of selling pressure. It just takes time to come back out. So that's just how I see it. So first of all, food. Before the lockdown and all this COVID-19 problem, we always talks about people. I think when the virus was first more or less reported in China, people also talking about locusts, going around in Southeast Asia, in not Southeast Asia, in Asia itself. I think many Pakistan and part of Middle East kind of countries are affected, and there was even jokes on BBC News talking about China sending 100,000 ducks to try to eat up all those locusts and stuff. So apparently it works in China. So that thing I don't know how it went, but I suppose it's still going on. But the locust is an issue. And also food. Last time I said there's a lack of food in the east because everybody they get locked down, and the west had to supply, and therefore they supply themselves as well as supply to Asia. That's before European and US have a lockdown, and the rest of the world have lockdown. But that lack of food seems to have real problems now. I think it's going to much wider. Picture coming out is that the West were under lockdown, so to speak, so they're just eating whatever's in the reserves. A lot of farmers are apparently throwing the food away. Now there's two ways of looking at this. One is looking at the retail industry, like you and I, just retail normal consumer buying food from supermarkets. That is working pretty well, and in fact, it's looking extremely well for supermarket and food stores. Actually, selling things because people just storing food, canned food, fresh food and stuff, and people still need to eat even though in downtown, whatever. So that seems to be working. But another one, on the other hand, is the food industry supplying from farmers supplying to big businesses like hotel, cruise ships, what you call Las Vegas, those kind of thing, or KFC chicken, those kind of stuff are getting hard hit because the way they produce that stuff is in big packets and quite heavy as well. They're different from the retail versions. Retail for consumers is quite small. This one you're talking about, big kilo packs, 10, 20 kilo packs kind of stuff. It's quite different. So apparently the supply chain for the big businesses, food businesses, are very different from the retail chain for the consumers, and it's not easily switchable. So a lot of farms which work exclusively, say McDonald's, they have farms that supply, let's say, chicken and beef directly to McDonald's. Because McDonald's shut down, say in UK, the UK farmers who have exclusive contract with McDonald's can't deliver, okay? Because the McDonald's not open. McDonald's doesn't want to take them. They might have a contract. You might argue about it, but the food is fresh, and it will basically perish if you don't use them. So, and chicken, being chicken now, especially very similar to US, chicken has been organically through different generations for years and years, have been moved to produce to a certain size and grow rather quickly, and especially bigger portion, bigger meat, more meatier and stuff. And those chicken just cannot last for very long under normal circumstances because they go much bigger than before. They have certain life cycles, so to speak. If they live longer than a certain time and not being killed and to consume as meat for people, they just die naturally because quite horrible death apparently. The heart just give out and just couldn't do much pumping the blood around the body because the body's too big for the heart to support. So those are the type of things you can watch them on YouTube. So for the chickens, basically, there's no way to go. McDonald's not open, KFC not open. What should they do? They can freeze them so much only, but what's the freezing storage? And they all have a shelf life as well. They can freeze for 6 months or something. So if you freeze now and lockdown happens for 6 months, and what happens? All those freeze need to be thrown away, and that's happened to the eggs farmers as well. A lot of eggs are not getting picked, chickens are dying, cows are not slaughtered at time or something, and porks as well, all of them as well. So so the consumer side is very robust. They can take up the snack, but to actually move from the business side, direct food supply, farmer supply from, let's say, McDonald's to the consumer is very different. McDonald's want to cut chicken certain ways, egg certain size, so other food products certain size and come in big packets, and actually try to change that to consumer side. First of all, you have, of course, the contract, because farmer A had to supply to McDonald's. If McDonald's not buying them, but they are allowed to sell those goods to the consumer market, knowing also plus the problem is the supply chain is quite different. So there's a problem here, So the food industry, in one way, it's quite surprising that they had to throw away. The farmers had to throw away food when there's lots of people not having enough food, but or not able to buy food and stuff. But on the other hand, those food specifically for the business industries are unable to. The farmer just couldn't sell them because hotels shut down. Airlines shut down. Big venues shut down. What were they going to do? KFC shut down, for example, McDonald's. How they go set those food? All these apparently cause a problem. So I think that lack of food will be later this year, probably not just Europe. I think around the world now. It's not just Southeast Asia issue. It's around the world issue. So that's one thing definitely affecting. And the other thing, the oil, that's been going on last 3 weeks ago when it got negative, and I talked about among a bit about it. So the lockdown coming back, slowly easing around the world, so people start coming back out. So the use for oil for cars and driving and stuff, probably it will start to recover. But the type of recovery that people talks about, just like general market, to be very quick, is ludicrous as far as I'm concerned. There will be some recovery, but the recovery on, let's say, the flight, it takes a long time. I mean, you're talking about not a couple of months, you talk about 12 months, maybe a couple of years, maybe longer than that to recover. And the car industry, people are not driving at the moment. okay, lockdown easing, they might be able to drive somewhere, but people mass going driving out. Probably initially, just people want to get out, get some sunshine, some fresh air, but slowly they will say, okay, shops are not really opening in full force. Shops are maybe maximum maybe 50% because of social distancing. People have to queue it up a lot more, so things will be slow to start. And the flights virtually they stand still. You might be able to move around within the country. International flight, as far as I'm concerned, is still under lockdown. There's just not many people moving around unless it's like, I think it's down 90%, unless like repatriating people, let's say American from Europe going back to America, US going back to Europe, that kind of stuff, to repatriating their own people back to their home country, but not, let's say, tourists coming around. European go to America, go look at, the places like, I don't know, Wall Street or something. You're going over there, go look at the Golden Gate or San Francisco kind of thing, or go to Canada. No, they all stopped. So all these flights usage for fuels is stopped. So for petroleum to recover, yeah, a little bit, but you think it'll be back to like, for WTI back to the 40, 50 marks before the lockdown and pandemic got noticed in the West? I don't think so. I think probably maybe $30-ish, maybe coming back up. They'll be bounce back, but going back to negative, I very much doubt it. I think that's like a show. Did that. I talk about the CME changing rules and stuff. I think that's very much a one-off event, but that again shows how market is so inefficient and market manipulation by CME. I mean, I'm in the software front to change something to allow, suddenly a product to go negative, buying, selling, allowed to go negative. You need some sort of planning. The CME is talking about, other products they do also allow negative, but not WTI. They never did that before. Suddenly they changed the rules. That is worth investigating, but is any government going to say something? Especially CME is America-based. And what does that mean to around the world? Especially America, it's got kicked in the teeth, so to speak, my view, by Russia as well, Saudi, when they, have a fight. And, the American shale and oil gas industry oversupplying and got hit quite badly, still getting hit quite badly. And the American government somehow, I personally feel, the big player there, just like conspiracy theory here, try to recoup some of their losses through, cutting down the ETF, those kind of stuff. So that is what I think is actually happening. But the price of petroleum, WTI or Brent crude oil, I think it probably half of what it was before. That would be lucky. You're talking about WTI, I was thinking about going back about 30, 35. No more than 40s, and then the Brent crude probably got to maybe 40 marks or something, or maybe less, 30 marks, 30 to 40 marks. We will see how it goes. And the other things, obviously, is the banks. The banks is very similar to 2007, 2008. Basically, people just, because out of job, they couldn't pay for their mortgages. And this time, is pandemic is quite earthquake to me in the mortgage industry. The people in rentals, or they already got their own house, couldn't pay the rent or mortgage themselves. That's just an average Joe, just you and me. But also on the commercial side, they're having a problem, because one thing is, okay, the bad debts coming from the mortgages is not like last time when the banking industry is selling a lot of subprime mortgages. This time it's more like the debts. People just couldn't pay for normal mortgages because they don't have a job. Okay, this lockdown causes the problem, and they have been doing a lot of consultancy work and so forth to go for the bond market and stuff, and that probably, I think, the next bit will get imploded. A lot of people get hurt later on, especially a lot of ETFs going on there as well, so in the gold market and stuff. So I think the big market player might be planning something for that too, but we just have to wait and see. But from a normal point of view, people out of job, they couldn't pay. Okay, that is one of the main thing. So if they can't pay, the banks could own a lot more mortgages, debts. They cannot sell them to, just like back in 2007, 2008. serialize and sell it to some other funds or something. So banks and I don't know, pension funds or whatever is holding those actual mortgages. I don't know which one, how that will pay out now. It's going to be quite bad that people just couldn't pay, not because they don't want to pay, just there's no job, so therefore they cannot pay. And secondly, if you look at you and I working, I mean, I'm from the IT side, so a lot of us on a lockdown time, we're the lucky bunch that can work from home because we are on IT. You can effectively just need a good internet, so we can just work from home. So for us, we're still very much productive, the IT-based industry and work. So that's fine. But people, I can tell you, it's gonna happen. And people are talking in my group. Other people talking in Asia as well, and sure in Europe and America. If we can work from home, now a lot of people find it a lot more better work from home because now they have to look after children, loved ones and stuff. They're forced to stay at home. They find themselves more productive. I personally did, so is my team that I work with. And and more flexible. Okay, they may not more like 9 to 5, 9 to 6 model, but if you have in the middle of the day, you have to go out for exercise for an hour or buy some food for your children and wife for dinner, you can do so in the middle of the day. And you can catch up your work in the evening. So a better life-work balance. And when the lockdown finishes, people will come out, especially middle IT company. I mean, even big company will say the same thing. Do I need to have, if I can function during the lockdown, do I need to rent or buy a commercial property to house people? Just think of a logic. I don't think so. So a lot of people will, because of this pandemic, change the way they work. The habits change definitely, but one thing definitely I can see coming is changing the way they work. They would not need to go to an office and chit-chat and do things, okay, until we actually got a cure or some sort of vaccine that can help people en masse and also test detection widely available around the world. Excuse me. I think people will most likely continue to work from home. And if you just project that forward, that also means that what's the point to rent a big, large commercial properties place? So a lot of leases probably won't get renewed. And therefore, those companies that created those place for business to rent and stuff probably will you go into some sort of cold ice age, that kind of thing, and couldn't service the debt. And again, the bank is going to hold those babies, and holding the loans, and it's not going to be good at all. So that's for me from the bank side. And the other things is, I think I talked about last couple of times about Airbnb. Basically, I'm doing two rental properties, so people are not able to pay the rent because they have no job, and this one hit Airbnb particularly hard because Airbnb is relying on people traveling either within the country or external from another country, and now the flights, basically international flights, are not allowed. Even internal within the country to travel is very much restricted. The Airbnb model just collapsed. So basically, you want to rent a room to other people traveling to your part of the world. Even local people will not come. So all these spare rooms to make some money on the side will not work. But remember, when Airbnb comes out, it's from my experience, part of strategy is to use Airbnb as a business setup, and just people actually go out and rent or buy houses to actually rent out to Airbnb, or ask a friend and say, okay, I'll look after your house for 5 years or 2 years, sign a contract with you, and I basically turn your house into a mini hotel and rent it out through Airbnb bookings and bookings.com and all sorts of things. But with international traveling to more or less going to a house to zero for the next probably 6 months, or a bit more, people will probably be reluctant to move out to try to go different countries unless there's, like I said, vaccines and testings available, widely available. The Airbnb model is just going to collapse. It's not going to work. So all those people, again, sign up for long lease to rent the house from landlords and stuff. They suffer. The landlord couldn't pay, so because they don't have income, they couldn't pay the mortgages. So all these super hosts and hosts from Airbnbs, that whole Airbnb thing, I think is very doubtful as far as I'm concerned. But at the moment, Airbnb is still a private company. They try to go public in March, but obviously the pandemic comes in, just knocked them on his head, and basically the whole thing gone bananas. But that sort of shows you what happened to your transfer go, like onion peel, one layer and another layer down, it's all going back to the banks. The banks are holding a lot more mortgage than usual, and people just couldn't pay, not just residential as well as commercial. Just it's going to be quite big effect to them as well. So how that works, I don't know. Those banks is definitely to look at. And of course, the next one is looking at the tourism. Like I said before, flying is not available, so the oil is sort of, even if they recover, it's very moderate because the flight in general just not going to recover. I mean, Virgin Atlantic's having issues, Qantas having issues, Delta Air, whatever, America's lots of them having issues. So British Airways have issue here in UK. So this is going to be across the whole industry causing problems. So people are not traveling internationally. So the hotels that cater for those international traveling, business travels, are having problems. Theme parks like Disney World kind of thing have problems. And people will go online tour, maybe will physically go there. Maybe they sell things online, but actually go there as an experience as a person. It's touch and feel is not going to happen. So therefore, that's another thing about hotel as well. And what about football? What about gigs? Big music festival and stuff. All of those gone. Okay, so the tourism, travel industries, and hospitality industry is wiped out for at least, I don't know, personally I think 6 months. What about all those people that working on those industries? I hear in UK we have plays, okay, and it's on BBC News already. Some of those people are just used to doing productions and stuff, play perhaps in the film industry. At least a lot of people have money. Those well-known actors got money. But what about those people who are just doing a supporting cast? Only there for supporting one or two shows or doing the electrical stuff. The supporting staff and things like that. They got laid off. They don't have any money. Okay, so. How does that go to work before all those things actually going on? The film industry has gone bananas, and those things like what I said about the play, people had to change their work because they couldn't find work within the play, the entertainment industry. So what they do, they got to change into other forms to get money. So either they become a Uber drivers, delivering food, Deliveroo, or they have to go and work in the supermarket, which a lot of them do at the moment. Not just students or stay-at-home moms. Some engineers actually end up doing that. Some lawyers are doing that, and the whole thing gone upside down, that kind of thing. So this is a type of things affecting loads of people, and of course you have to on that one, traveling, the students, international student. What do they mean? Like now, my son is in university. My daughter, the eldest of my second born, is going to university in September, October. And if this lockdown continue, or there's some form of it continue, will the schools and university be happy enough to let loads of people go and get into a teaching room to do teaching and learning for students? So there's, I just think, quite logically with the advance of especially now the Zoom and stuff going on for the people, working class people in the IT industry, for example, they probably would do similar thing, online teaching. So some schools are doing that in Europe. My son from Exeter University is doing online courses. The same university, but they put all the courses online, so they're staying home at the moment. So what does that mean? To going forward, project 6 months down the line. Will university around the world be ready to open up for students from around the world to arrive? That's a big question. What does that mean to student accommodations? That's just another form of renting houses, but especially just for students, it's affect UK. What about all those big pension funds that actually went out there and built a lot of student housings? students might not be coming in. So a lot of properties for the first 1 year, 6 months, I would think people will go online teaching. Okay, similar to what some of the students are doing now in some universities. They probably extend it to end of the year. So the first year, maybe I foresee it. I hope I'm wrong, but maybe the first term for all the students for next year going to university will go online teaching for now until they're ready, or the government tell them they're ready. The university have enough testing available, or the medical doctors around working for the schools have enough tests, means of tests available, and vaccines available for students in case they pick up some bugs and stuff. I mean, especially from overseas, you want to know whether a country, let's say you're from Europe and you're going to America, would you worry about your children getting enough medical insurance or whatever, or cover that the local, if in US there's enough tests? Let's say they go to MIT. Does MIT, there's a school that within that district have enough tests to help students from Europe that might show symptoms later on that's similar to flu, and then people think there might be COVID-19? Would they have adequate medical supplies, help them, vaccines and testing, and also the hospital able to cope with the influx or surgeries and stuff, small surgeries? So those are big questions on that. So what is Chinese student going into Europe? What does that mean? What about going to America? Well, this ranting going on between US and China. American say Chinese blah 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 blah. That's already talks. I said before. People say boycott buying American stuff, so they might not even go to America. They might go to Europe. They might go to Southeast Asia, other places are much more welcoming. So that's another thing to think of. And then you think of similar things like this. What about mining? Mining industry more or less shut down. Mining have to, a lot of deep mining, they have to go into a hole somewhere underneath the earth, very hot, badly ventilated. Would they, it opens up. How does that mean to gold and silver and metals and stuff? Something they can do on the surface, surface on the earth, fine, but if you have to drill down deep, let's say diamonds, gold, silver, those kind of things, will possibly have some issue. That's still things I need to look at as well, but those definitely issue. And the other thing is like all this money that's being printed out around the world, just financial stimulants that around the world, everybody is printing money, just like back in 2007, 2008. And plus the self-induced lockdown this time, it's not surprising, but we got the self-induced lockdown. A lot of people out of work because of the lockdown, and this takes time to recover. So government around the world massively just increase their debt ceilings and basically just print money and support the environment and their own economy. So just very much similar to reminiscence of the 2007-2008 problems. It's raised to bottom. Everybody is just got to issue as much debt as possible, hoping that the economy picks up. Now it depends on which economy comes up first is the winner. Now American came out last time with the help of the Chinese buying things from America, and around the world, so help around the world as well, the Chinese can buy things. Now this time is a spat and possible, litigation, so to speak, asking Chinese to pay, the Chinese government to pay. You think China's going to come to rescue this time? They still want stuff, no doubt about it. But from where? From the unfriendly countries or the friendlier countries? Everybody wants to get in, so it's a similar thing to India. A lot of people supply them, but India is more low cost. People not earning big money. How does the Western world go to do business with these two countries? Especially they got the biggest middle class, so to speak, the population growth and stuff. And I first interview, I said before, I say it again, the next 50 years is Asia time. It's India and China's time on the consumer market side of things. And there probably a lot more innovation coming out, technology-wise from those countries. Simply just got the population to support that. I mean, just play probabilities. Okay, you have one Jack Ma in China. I'm sure you have similar things in India, And simply because there's more people in these two populous countries, the chances of similar people like Java themselves around these two places will be great. More countries, companies will come out, more ideas, and also get a workforce to do that. So the Western world could supply them with things. So, but this time, of course, China have its own problem, or suffering from a virus, and people ask them to pay money. You think they come over? I don't think so. And all this massive stimulus, basically, as far as I'm concerned, is inflationary. Now, people say there's no inflation for the last 10 years since 2000, 2007, 2008. But people forget all this inflation has been absorbed by the Chinese, by the manufacturing, as well as Southeast Asian countries absorbing all this extra money. And the money has been going around, buying up properties, buying up shares around the world. But this time, everybody's massive in debt. There's a lot of tick for tat, spat, angry argument between countries. I don't know how it's going to happen. How it's going to end, and people will basically, would it just follow what the Americans go to say and just continue and just wait up as before and just ask China to pay and China's going to pay? Just lying down paying? I don't think so. So all these little things all crop up, and especially lots of people are not working now. This pandemic causes, as far as I'm concerned, more problems than 2007, 2008. And the type of job loss we're talking about is massive. I mean, just look at America. 1 in 3, 1 in 4 is not working and claiming benefit. The working population, I mean, okay? And that's just not American phenomenon. It's Europe as well, in Asia as well. Probably Asia is not as bad or not so many people locked up, in Europe very much, following the Chinese lockdown model and causing quite a bit of issues. And that's causing not just social issue, but also economics, financial issues. And what does that mean? That's all this need to be answered. But one thing massively I understand, and it's understatement, is people will not have so much free money. The rich continue to be rich. The low class just ask the country just pay for them. But it's the middle class that sucks. They lost their jobs. They couldn't even buy an iPhone. They think it will upgrade that quickly, buy the next Nike. They're having a problem even going to McDonald's. That's my view. So to actually see all these big ticket company like painting, wines, luxury Gucci bags, expensive clothing and stuff, especially holidays and things, gotta be all going to pants. Phone, iPhone is one thing, definitely. It's status simple, especially in Asia. But will people able to pay for them? We have similar problem before. We've seen back in 2007, 2008, people will stick with what they have. Let's say phone or computer. Only if there's an upgrade or there's a need for them. Say they need to constantly in touch with the workplace with a phone. On the computer, they need a computer working from home. Those kind of things. Would they spend that money on the computer or go and buy a nicer looking Nike shoes or Gucci bag? I would say probably what needs to generate the income first, right? And food on the table first. So actually, for people to go around and say, okay, I will still able to sell luxury goods and services, and iPhone still go through the roof. Nah, I sort of doubt it. I think people will. I hope there's no recessions, but I think that stagflation is more likely. That around the world, people's just losing jobs, and job creation takes time, and it just like for me, just more like a sideways market for around the world. That's why it calls stagflation, and then inflation comes in because of all this American first ideas. People try to move things away from China, manufacturing chain wise, because they've seen the problem in China when the virus going on. They got a lockdown everywhere, having problems. So the financial market, you say when US having a hiccup, the rest of the world have a cold. Same thing for Asia on supply chain, manufacturing side. China have a sickness. Everybody got a tumor. Okay, well they got to just stay and let continue the status quo continue now. I mean, you can blame China for all this, but I blame the purchasing manager and all the rest of the country, world. They know China is cheaper, so that's why they gone there. But they also know there's a risk. People just got lazy and just don't want to open another product line, let's say in Singapore, Malaysia, that kind of Indonesia. It costs money, understand. But when the pandemic happens, nobody is from the supply chain point of view, is prepared for it. So all this because chronicle underinvestment, because everybody think, oh, how often you get a virus that coming around the world and knock everybody down. Probably just Europe or just a couple of countries, not worldwide. But now people see the differences or problems. They will go move it from China, definitely. But they also need a Chinese market. So are they gonna move everything away? No matter what the American gotta say, move everything out of China, or so to speak, whatever the word for it. Would they be able to do that? Let's say they move to Vietnam. There's a lot of people who want to move to Vietnam, Cambodia. But do they have, first of all, do they have the land, the factories ready, the infrastructure ready, okay, to support all these extra workers and stuff? And secondly, do they have the workers? They don't. And what type of workers are they? Normal cheap labor workers or middle class and IT guys, whatever, middle technology wise kind of thing that China is well known for now. And secondly, like I said before, to have the people to do that, even if the government give you the incentive to open up, that's another thing. Would the government give the incentive to all these other countries to continue to open shops in their country, from the west to the country? They might not. Even if they are allowed to, they don't have even the people. The population base is supported. India and China is very big. They might go to India, That's possible. And we just have to wait and see how that happens. And maybe very useful to see how that might work out. So basically that is what I think so far that might happen, and I'm going to do a lot more analysis, and this is basically my 2 cents worth, but I think all this have a lot of implication. I mean, the main thing for me is the inflation that coming, and then the rhetoric. It just happened now. I thought that would only happens later on, but it's happening. The payback, rest of the world against China because this virus. So many people died. People just look for places to blame, and with China just go stand there and just let America keep on saying it, saying China is bad, China is this, China is that, and out of all of that, each countries still want to trade with each other. Globalization is out of the bottle. The genie is out of the bottle. It's not going to stop. No matter what the Americans want to say, go back to their own countries or pull the manufacturing back to America, or as the Europe say that, how effective would that be? How much extra cost that will be? Would the general consumer allow this to happen, able to pay for those? That is another thing. I mean, one thing for sure, China is not Japan. And Japan got, the whole thing gone upside down because of the Plaza Accord. China is not going to sign things like that. And China already come back and push back. China is a much bigger country. U.S. might try to use whatever they use against Russia to break it up. Freedom, right to vote, right to choose, and maybe start off some more hatred around the Southeast China Sea area. The sea right in Southeast Asia, and it's also Taiwan. Use that. One thing you got to try to do some research. There's some research out there on YouTube talking about American base surrounding China or Southeast Asian countries, mainly against China. And China has seen that ages ago, with America trying to beef that up, cause a bit more issue, not just financially, but also militarily, and try to force China to back down. Will China back down? I don't know. I personally worry about new front of Cold War coming up, but we see how it goes. But anyway, this is what I'm looking at. I will continue to look at, and basically that's my analysis. I'll probably share with you guys a bit more later on, a couple months later, to see how it goes. But we just had to wait and see, and in the fronting for me for now. So let's look at this week's sample trading update, which is coming up next. Okay, first off the bat is Apple. Short term is a buy like last week, medium term is neutral, long term is a buy, so no change here. Next is Amazon. Again, same as last week. Short term is a sell, medium term is a buy, long term is a buy. Aussie dollar against US dollar. Again, same as last week. Short term is a buy, medium and long term are neutral. Brent crude, a slight change. And short term now is a buy, medium and long term is a sell. Now crude oil already turned buy last week on short term, so again it's the same for this week. Short term is a buy, long and medium term is a sell. That's for WTI Brent crude oil. Next is the DAX. Short term is a buy, medium and long term is neutral. Same as Dow Jones, and is a buy short term, neutral, long term, medium term. I said before at the start of the podcast, I sort of see the rate of change and increase, and Dow Jones sort of slowed. I think the highest previously was 24,500-ish area, and now it's probably going back and forth around 24,000, 24,300-ish. So it might go back in the 24,500 area, but who knows? Just have to wait and see. FTSE 100 in UK, short term now changed to sell, medium term changed to neutral, long term also changed to neutral. So a slight change from last week. Gold, continuation of a buy, short term, medium term is neutral, long term is again a buy. Hang Seng Index from Hong Kong, short term now changed to sell, medium term is still neutral, long term is also a sell. Now this is the first one that this week, more or less, is turning sell signals. Has been doing that early in the week. I think what happened is they got a holiday last week, and then Monday, this Monday just gone, they come back from the holiday and then suddenly found themselves the index down about 1,000 points or something. So just do a bit of catching up with what happened to Dow Jones last week. So it's basically turned the short-term signal, 280-hour signal, to a sell. So and continue then on for a bit of sideways trade. Next is Nasdaq. Short term is a buy, medium term is neutral, long term is a buy. Nikkei in Japan, short term is still a buy, medium long term both neutral. Silver is a bit slightly different from gold. It's for some reason, it's, I suppose, because of the industrial nature usage of silver, with the economy not doing well. This week, short term it changed from buy from last week to gold to sell this week. So short term for silver is a sell, medium term is neutral, and long term is a sell. So it's more or less doing a drift, slowly drifting downwards. So short term now is also a sell as well. So we just have to see how it goes. US dollar against the Chinese yuan, short, medium, long term is a buy. That means US dollar still comparatively stronger than the Chinese yuan. That's what's happening at the moment. Next is US dollar against Japanese yen. Short term is a sell, medium term is neutral, long term is a sell. So there's a slight preference of, so same as last couple of weeks. People might be moving into yen, just a bit of safe haven. People are buying yen maybe because they are expecting the US index with this Fed fund-induced rally might not last long, so people are just basically moving slowly to safe haven like Japanese yen. After that is next is British pound against Japanese yen. Short term is a sell, medium term is neutral, long term is a sell. So that basically slowly changed the short term from buy to sell this week. British pound against USD next. Long term is a neutral, medium term is neutral, short term is still a buy, so same as last week. Bitcoin, short term is a buy, medium term now is also a buy, and long term is a buy. I want to spend a couple of minutes on this one. There's a lot of people saying Bitcoin now may have turned the corner and going to above 10,000, blah, 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 blah. But the listener of this channel have seen, I've been on Bitcoin since end of March. So effectively, that is when the general stock market around the world, US especially, more or less bottom out. I think it's around end of March, early April, that kind of area. And for some reason, I said in the early podcast, at the start of the podcast, is some sort of relationship. It seems to be for this bounce anyway. So this Fed-induced bounce seems to have, I don't know, investors just buying everything, including Bitcoins. And so Bitcoin now is short-term is a buy, long-term is a buy, medium-term is also a buy. And last week, I think the long-term changed to buy is sort of neutral because it's gone above the 200-day moving average. So, but then if you look at the bigger picture on the chart, there seems to be a downward trend ceiling coming down, and it's holding it back. But it looks like it has broken above it and is doing well. But people are now saying above 10,000, going 10,000, going higher, and I don't know what's going on. Now there is a possibility that what I just said the past couple of minutes is true, that people are buying anything from because of American induced or this US dollars flooding the market. People just can buy anything, but being trend follower, you could never tell what the trend will look like. So at this moment, Bitcoin seems to be relating to US Dow Jones and Nasdaq, the S&P 500 moving upwards. But there's possibly might do a bit different kind of thing if what you call Bitcoin is supposed to be similar to gold. It's a bit of supposed to be safe haven that people talk about. And will it be? We don't know. It doesn't seem to be the case last time when the market has gone down. It's gone down with it. So it's gold. It's gone down, but it recovered much quicker and gone back up to the 70,000 area, 17,010 area, that kind of thing. Bitcoin seems to recover it a bit. So what I try to impress upon you guys is there might be some relationship on short term, but over long term, each market is most of the time, to me anyway, it could be very different because each different market are played by different set of people. They have different rules and criteria and needs. So they will then show a collective emotion of the group of people that is in that particular market. So for Bitcoin, it might continue to follow what the US Dow Jones is doing, but it might not. So I won't be surprised if there's some sort of divergence going around. But we just have to wait and see. And also people have a lot of prediction out there. Remember, trend following, we don't predict. We just wait. And people only recently talk about Bitcoin, but if you have been tracking Bitcoin through my podcast, when everybody's, really worried about the stock market, Bitcoin suddenly rose its ugly head, say, hey, I'm moving up. What are you going to do about it? Trend following, we follow. And we follow. Now people will come back and talk about it on Bitcoin because it seems to raise its head up above certain level, like 8,000 kind of thing. People look at it, 9,000, it's gone up now, it's challenging 10,000. Then they talk about it. But this is the nature of trend following. A lot of the time, you get a signals from your trend following system showing you some bizarre signals. And it's up to you to follow or not. But a lot of the time you look back, it seems to somehow know there's something going on and latch on to the system. And by the time other people, mainstream, especially talking about it, you're already on it. So, that's how things go. Like crude oil, when everybody talk about, how bad it got with negative high, I talk about it in my previous podcast. But you look at it, the trend following system only latched on January sometime, before the big hoo-ha in February and March. So trend following, in my view, can be quite a leading indicator. It just latch on thing and going for it. But you have thought trend following must wait for a trend. So how can it be leading? But sometimes you just somehow the market is doing something and you just following your rules. And it seems to me anyway, short term, especially short term, quite sensitive, medium term as well. And long term too, it all seems to do its own thing in slightly different time frame, but is making headway. So as long as the price changes, then just go ahead. So to me, all this prediction, like people say S&P 500 go where, Dow Jones go anywhere, Hong Kong Index or Nasdaq, whatever. I've been there. I tried that too, and most of the time, I guess I could be wrong, especially when I'm very confident the market is going to do its things. So I learned over a lot of dead bodies, so to be dead accounts and dead trades and stuff. That occasionally I still do it. Basically, I just say, don't guess, forget it. Just follow trading systems, makes our life simple. You're not going to get every single trade to be correct, but you do enough, make enough, and you make enough money. So that's good enough. So stop this guessing game. Forget about the guess and just concentrate on following your system, following trend following. That's what I just try to say here. The last but not least is the TLT. So that is a bit of change as well. Short term is now changed to sell. Medium term is still neutral like last week, and long term is a buy. So what does that mean? Bonds seems to quiet down quite a bit. So the prices reduces, so the yield gone up. So I think that's similar to the general yield bond market. Things are still very low as far as I'm concerned. The price very low, but you also start increasing a little bit. So the price, the TLT, which tracked this ETF, tracking the bond price, is doing similar things. So short term now is a sell. So all this point to could be just my view anyway. But what the trend following system is showing, it could be. Short term there's some changes. You see this week already some, quite a few buys and turn to sell already. So there could be something going on the other way around. I don't know. I just have to wait and follow the trend. But there's also many bears out there thinking, this is like that can't bounce. As far as I'm concerned, it's a bear market bounce. But we have no idea how low, how much further it can go. So a lot of short position out there. But the Fed's got a lot of money. So there's this tug of war going on between what people in general think about the market should go, but the Fed's had loads of money pumping the market and just push it upwards. So I think it's the moment sort of balancing out, and that's why I see it in the charts. On my charts anyway, that things have slowed down the rate of increase, so to speak. We just have to wait and see how things might turn out. But as far as transferring concerned, nothing to do. Just follow the trend and see how it goes. But from a charting point of view, and also my initial analysis, which I showed you at the start of the podcast, I do feel that the optimism of the people in general in the stock market is misplaced now. I'm not sure what is causing that increase. I most likely believe it is the Fed's induced increase, but I think a lot of investors like myself, like trend following, just follow it through. Who knows, and just basically ride a bucking bunker until the end. So when the trend ends and turns our way around, then we just go short. So at the moment, nothing much to do rather than just to follow the market, and that's essentially what trend following does. We just follow the trend until the trend bends, and when it ends, we go that way around. That's the end of the lesson, basically. I hope you like the podcast this week, and I speak to you next week.